more detail shortly. If we can move to the next slide, Kaya, please. Lovely. So I'd just like to take a minute to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm speaking to you today. And for me, that's the Jaja Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. I think that Mel has just posted this in the chat. If you'd like to acknowledge in the chat the traditional custodians of the lands you are joining from, we'd love to hear. Okay, before we begin, I just wanted to get across a few bits of housekeeping. So firstly, just like all attendees to make sure you're on mute throughout the session. That's just to minimize the background noise and ensure everybody can hear what's going on clearly. This doesn't mean, however, that you can't speak. So if you do want to ask a question and to do it verbally, then please just raise your hand and wait to be asked to come off mute, and then we'll be able to answer your question. Furthermore, cameras are welcome. So you don't have to stay with your cameras off. Please feel free to turn your camera on if you want to feel more part of the conversation. Also, if you've got any questions during the presentation and you don't want to ask us verbally, you are also free to ask in the Q&A channel that we've opened for this meeting as well, or in the chat function. And we've got several people who are reviewing that for us today. So they may be able to answer your questions or they'll refer it to the panel. Also, I'd just like to let everybody in the session today know that we are recording this session, and the recording will be made available afterwards for those who are unable to stay for the full session or who would like to revisit any of the content at a later date. And the plan is to make this content available for the next 12 months so that you can come back and review it at your leisure. And finally, we do have live captions available today. If you'd like to use them, just go into the More option on your Teams application and into the language settings, and you can turn on live captions from there. Next slide, please, Kaya. So just a quick overview of what we are covering today. So we're going to start off with a very brief welcome and why we're here. We're going to then get you to meet the panel, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell you how they've been involved in the project. And then we're going to move on to some panel questions, during which time you'll be able to ask questions of the panel as well. And then we're looking to close at about, what time will it be? About 12 o'clock. Next slide, please. A very scary picture of me. So just a little bit about the project that we're going to talk about today. So SparkED is a project that was born from our Elevated project, which is PSO's PD framework created specifically for energy educators. And while we were working through Elevated, we came up with a fairly blunt question, which was, how do we make professional learning feel less like a compliance task and more like something that genuinely shifts in practice, in learning practice? So we know that educators are time poor, and we wanted the SparkED experiment to explore different ways of learning. So we were looking really at, can flexible online learning, peer connection, practical application and evidence of change bring that 70-20-10 learning model that you've probably heard about to life? And so SparkED became our learning laboratory, where we delivered our innovation thinking content, our training, to 4 cohorts of volunteer testers. And so today we have for you on the panel the people who designed this platform and the training for us, the person who facilitated most of those sessions for us, and also the people who experienced it. So what we're going to cover today is what worked, what surprised us, what it tells us about building learning that is useful and human and carried back into real teaching practice as well. So we're just going to run through our panel now and get them to introduce themselves. Graham, you start. You're on mute.
Rookie mistake. Thanks, Deb. So my name is Graham Hall. So I am a learning architect. So I've been involved in learning for over 20 years. It used to be 15. It's just getting older and bigger. And then my company, a guy I know, we literally built this program, architected it and built the program for PSO.
Thanks, Graham. Kevin.
Well, hi there, everyone. My name is Kevin. I had the great opportunity and privilege to be the facilitator for one of the programs we're delivering on SparkED, which was the Innovated program. My background is more years than I care to think about, facilitating, delivering and designing these types of workshops. And of course, over the last, I guess, 10, 15 years, delivering them virtually. So I was really interested in, first of all, the program itself was a really interesting area, but also looking at the technology and some of the great stuff that Graham's team had developed in the SparkED platform.
Thanks. And Sonia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I participated in the SparkED program. I am an electrical engineer by trade and was a trainer for 6 years, electrical and electrotechnology trainer in Holmesglen for the last 6 years, but have left teaching since in January to pursue other things. So, so I found it very useful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, Stuart.
Good morning, team. I'm sort of the accidental educator. I've been an electrician for over 30 years. And I needed a job and never thought that I'd ever take up a teaching position. I participated in SparkED and I found it very insightful, and it definitely will help my teaching in the future.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. And you'll also notice there that Kevin and Sonia don't have a little image at the bottom of their pictures, and that's because they're independent contractors. So they are not officially working for anybody but themselves. So that's why they don't have those there. So we can dispense with the PowerPoint now, and we'll get straight to the questions. So the first question that we have is for you, Graham. So SparkED was designed as a pilot and not just a professional development course. So we always knew that it was going to be something we wanted to test with educators. What was the brief that was given to you in terms of what it was designed to test, and what were you hoping to learn about how educators engage in a live online learning environment?
So yes, so the most important thing in that brief was it was a pilot. So whatever we designed and architected, we weren't just trying to solve that problem for this particular component. It was how can we then scale that and roll it out. So that's kind of very important. The other part was we weren't just building a course, so it was kind of more like an experiment. So when we're trying to help people have innovation confidence, and that audience are in more perhaps a regulated environment, time poor, you mentioned, and so how could we do this over a 30-day period? And we have a certain amount of content, but we want to minimize it so it's not a problem for them to do, and they can feel the value. So we wanted to find out what can we do to kind of provide that solution, and we needed to test whatever we did satisfied that. The other thing is it needed to be an online environment. I mean, I don't know about yourself, but when I'm online, a lot of the time I can zone out and switch out. So how can we ensure that they stay that engagement, and how can we test that engagement and ensure that they maintain that throughout that program?
Excellent. Okay. I think we'll move to Kevin now. And from a facilitation perspective, what did you notice early on about what participants needed to engage with in the experiment?
Yeah, I think the most obvious one was probably getting the technology out of the way. So one of the most important things was for people to, we were using a lot of different modalities of learning. We had e-learning, we had MS Teams, we had virtual sessions, we had chat groups, we had SharePoint where people were filling out forms and then uploading them into the system so that I could look at them through an AI tool. Getting that technology working to enhance engagement was absolutely key, I think, so that didn't become, if you like, a friction point or a speed bump, if you like, to prevent people from actually, doing the thinking that we needed them to do, and actually engage robustly within the program as well, and actually to robustly engage with the other participants as well. So that the first one was, just getting that tech out of the way. The second one, I think, was, and it's one of the things I really loved about the program, really loved about delivering the program, was the cohorts that I had, was about validating everyone's professional context. One of the great things about the program, I think, which really helped with the engagement, was that, in a really genuine way, we're very interested to know what was the situation, what was the real situation for everyone on the ground, if you like, and actually using that real lived experience, that real professional context, to validate, what we were actually going through as part of the program. So people identifying their, professional frustrations or opportunities where they could do improvements, and then in a really practical way exploring those through the program. I think that really definitely helped with engagement. And I guess the final bit, which was the tricky one, was this was an innovation program, and it was really about trying to prevent people going straight to a solution, going straight into that kind of solver instinct. And it was really interesting the way the program developed over a period of weeks, in the sense of holding people back from going into a solution mode and actually keeping them in that space where they can explore the frustration, really articulate what the different tensions were, and then look at, the opportunities for what might be the different ways of actually solving those issues from different kind of viewpoints, was really, really good. I think that's when the engagement really started to happen, when people kind of were encouraged to think perhaps broader and deeper about the issue, rather than just leaping straight into a solution. I think that really helped with the engagement. So it's a combination of providing people, some structure around the program, but generally getting the tech out of the way so that everyone can actually share their professional context with their peers and have a genuine dialogue around, what's their frustrations, what's the opportunities for improvements, and then exploring that space into the innovations, which ultimately we discuss at the end of the program.
Yeah, that was great, Kevin. And it's no accident that we chose innovation as the theme for the training content. What we wanted is to provide some people with something that they could go away and use in practice within their work, and look at how they can maybe change things that aren't working for them within their educational practice. So finding that was something that was really key is very interesting. Thank you. Now, Stuart, and probably Sonia as well, we'll ask you both this one. Or what stood out as useful, challenging, or different from the other professional development training that you've experienced within the SparkED pilot?
Did you want to speak first, Stuart, or would you like me to?
I'm fine to speak after you, Sonia.
Oh, okay. Well, I found it useful in the sense it was very progressive and logical, the logical and progressive process of developing an idea step by step. And it was real, based on real issues or problems that we face in the workplace as trainers. I know as an electrical trainer, I do face, I'm sure Stuart does as well. And it explored the assumptions, uncertainties, and risks that are involved in developing this idea and providing before we provide a solution. Is also very well structured, I thought, with the tasks were clear, and there was guidance and practical examples in order to sort of get our thinking in order. And yeah, it was short, easy to understand questions that made the task very manageable, I found. Yeah. And real solutions, the conclusion was real solutions, which I found was very useful. Challenging, just one thing is I found is there was a lot of information, and for myself, I had to kind of read it a couple of times to understand it, and also the short stories provided. But after stage 3, I felt it became a lot easier to understand, and it fell a lot more in place after stage 2 and stage 3. More stage 3. Mm-hmm. And
Excellent.
anything? Yep. Thank you.
That's brilliant. How is it different, Sonia, from the other professional development training that you've done?
I think because it focused on solving real workplace issues rather than hypothetical scenarios, I found is useful. I'm a very practical person, so I feel dealing with real problems or issues in the workplace and finding solutions is a lot more useful. It also allowed me to work on a current challenge that I was facing. And I guess the structured and logical way of thinking through each stage helped, to provide answers to a lot of things that we sometimes overlook before presenting these solutions to managers. For example, I suppose issues with legal issues or privacy issues and things like that. So it considered a lot of things that sometimes I guess I have overlooked in the past when presenting things to managers.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you, Sonia.
You're
Stuart.
welcome.
Yep. I enjoyed the whole process where, like, as a whole, like I've worked as a breakdown electrician, just have to think very reactively, find that solution, instantly come up with that one solution. Whereas the IgniteED program basically tells you slow down a little bit and have a bit of a think about what you're doing, involve your team. So the whole process of converging on your friction point and then diverging straight into some solutions, then converge again, expand on your possible solutions and bring it up with your team. So what it's essentially done is quantified what I was doing intuitively. So, yep, definitely I'm a bit of an anticipator, reactive, not a really good planner. So, yep, the solutions come in. I've got plan A, B, C, D, and Z ready to go, ready to put out the fires. But this has sort of said, slow down, incorporate your team. Don't let the system keep on going the way it is because it's never going to fix itself up. Challenge the system, make some change. We haven't got, not everything's perfect at the moment. And the more that we walk over the problems, we become the problem. So I think the biggest tool it has given is like it puts a name to powering skills. And it means we can change things if we collaborate more.
Excellent. I think that's an interesting point, Stuart, because we talked in one of the sessions earlier in the week about the background noise we all hear, and there's all sorts of complaints and concerns coming at us from different angles, and it's actually taking those and working out where they fit and what is the problem that they are all contributing to. And I think the program did a lot to kind of draw people towards that, didn't they? So that's an interesting point. What was different for you as well, Stuart, about this type of learning from the other PD courses that you've done?
I love the fact that, as you say, we're professionals, we're very time poor, but everyone can sort of spare 15, 20 minutes, do a little bit of online research, and then once a week meet up with your team for about 30 minutes and discuss, in engagement. Whereas the current PD that we have is, watch a webinar for 1 hour, answer 4 questions, and that's it. Yeah. So there's no room to engage your trainer. Typically your questions are so random. You spend ages trying to find the exact way to answer them. But definitely engagement was a big thing, and we would like to teach our students in an engaging fashion. So why isn't it our PD is presented to us to engage us as educators?
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to put to the panel before we move on to the next round of questions? Nope. Okay. Right, so we're going to delve a bit deeper into from content to applied learning now. So, Sonia, I'm going to come back to you. What made Spark feel practical, and where did you see a connection to your own teaching, assessment, and educator practice?
Okay,
I think you've
let
already
me just.
spoken to it.
Yes. Okay. Well, I found I was teaching line workers, the electrical, so 3 electrical trades units, and I found the project was, I guess it was based on genuine teaching challenges that I experienced, and I used that one of the challenges as an idea that I worked through, that I developed. It also, I guess, guided us through how to develop the idea in clear stages, like identifying an opportunity, defining the problem, and each stage was broken into manageable steps, I guess. And my opportunity statement actually focused on improving learning outcomes for electrical line worker students who struggle with learning the electrical units, and because they come from varied backgrounds, I guess, and some have not done these units or done maths at all, and lack of motivation, and so depending on others to progress through the course rather than independently doing things. Did that answer some of the questions, Deborah? Did I
Absolutely.
answer your question? Yeah.
You did. Thank you, Sonia.
Okay.
Same question to you. What made Spark feel practical for you? And did you see a connection between your own teaching, assessment, and educator practice within the content?
Yeah, it felt practical to me. Like when we're doing electrical training, it's so hard to link with the students, like bridging the gap between theory and application. Students don't understand while they're doing theory, but when they do it practically, and they don't see the theory component in it. So we're trying to explain what the theory is explaining in practical wise. So it has sort of helped me sort of bridge that gap. So as far as my teaching experience goes, then yep, I'll definitely be taking on board how Ignite has presented, like try and shorten the amount of theory to practical at the same time. So do a bit of theory and then bring the practical straight in to explain it. And it's all about getting that engagement and interest and keen from our students.
Excellent. Okay. Graham, back to you, our architect. So, what was one design decision that you made when you were developing Sparks that mattered more than we might realize and that most people would realize?
So yes, as a learning architect, and in fact, Kevin mentioned as well when he was actually doing the training, the experience people go into solution mode. So normally when people go, hey, can you build me this thing? They think they know what, and that's kind of where the learning architect comes in, because we actually think of it in 3 layers. So, and the first layer, which people don't really think about, is how is it being deployed? So we mentioned that it's a pilot, so it also needs to be future-proof as it scales. So that deployment layer is probably the most critical thing. Kevin mentioned the different blend of engagement that we had, the different styles that were built together. So you can go and get these different platforms that allow you to do this, but we have to think, how are people, when we scale, going to be able to log in, and are they going to kind of, a dedicated password just for this? So for us, the key layer was that deployment layer, and we went for Microsoft stack. So everything is built on the Microsoft stack. All the engagement is through the Microsoft stack. And then that allows us to really be kind of agnostic, because everyone uses Microsoft. And everyone trusts Microsoft, whether that's right or wrong, but we generally do. So one of the key design decisions is that deployment level. Then we could construct on top of it those different elements, those engagement, and then we could provide that blend. And then finally, what we actually follow is we follow a reusable model for those little objects, the videos that people had, the characters and things like that, because that then provides a golden thread throughout. So over a 30-day program, that golden thread, people they're used to seeing the same characters, look and feel. It all feels familiar. So yeah, that was it.
I think that one of the things you pointed out there as well is, which was part of the brief, we didn't want to spend a lot of the time selecting a learning management system and then teaching people how to use the learning management system and building it, because that's a huge piece of work to deploy some learning. So it was basically drawing on the digital expertise that most of our participants would already have. And as you're saying, also that kind of digital architecture that was already in place as well. So that was, yeah, a great solution, I think. And I probably a lot of people don't know that you can use Microsoft as a learning management system either. It was certainly something I wasn't clear on. Kevin, what role did the onboarding and facilitation and support play in helping you engage with the pilot?
Yeah, look, there's so much I could say about that, right? Look, the support was absolutely critical. I mean, it's funny, Graham talking about his golden thread that he architected all the way through the program across 5 weeks. And then me as the typical kind of discursive facilitator, you know, fraying his golden thread all the way through every conduct, I'm afraid. But look, one of the great things about this program was we did a week 0 right at the beginning. So even before we really kind of officially started the program, we had this optional drop-in session where participants, learners would come in and just confirm all their passwords were working, that they were getting the email, and that we gave them kind of a very quick kind of navigated tour of the system. I think that week 0, once again, trying to get technology out of the way was absolutely key. But the other thing that was absolutely key was having the support available to everyone, me as a facilitator and the participants as well, via email or via a dedicated chat channel from the Graham's team, which was absolutely key. Doesn't matter how well you do the orientation, it doesn't matter how well the platform works, there's always going to be a technical issue somewhere unexpected that's going to affect someone, and it can really be detrimental against the engagement for the participant, or it can really, you know, as a facilitator, I can lose confidence very quickly in the platform. But that support was there at every step of the way at the point of need, and it solved every issue because, you know, MS platform, you know, it's a great suite, okay, and other suites are available, but it doesn't matter how great it is, there's always going to be a technical issue. And as a facilitator and as a learner, you want to focus on the cognition and having that trust and confidence that there's someone there to resolve all those issues unexpected whenever they occur in a really timely way and a really kind of proactive way. It was such a confidence builder, I think, for everyone on the program. It was absolutely terrific. So you can't underestimate support. And the other thing I just want to call out, because we've mentioned a couple of times, there was a case study developed, this Julie case study. Julie was the persona who was developed, who was a person working within, you know, an educator working within the vet sector. And that case study is, you know, stage by stage through the program, you could actually follow Julie's pathway through the actual program and kind of use it as an exemplar of, you know, what we were trying to develop within the program. Having that case study was absolutely key. Julie did a lot of heavy lifting and made my life as a facilitator so much easier, because Sonia made the point, okay, a lot of these concepts, you had to kind of reread over them. It wasn't kind of one and done. You had to reflect and then come back. And the Julie case study was absolutely fantastic. It gave a professional context that was relatable, I think, to everyone on the program, that would take you and kind of illustrate in a really practical way the concepts of what we were trying to do stage by stage. And because it was available at the point of need, it was a PDF, it was a document you could go back to again and again and review and refresh, and kind of, it just really helped to crystallize, I think, people's understanding of what we were trying to do on the concept side, the theory side, if you like, but make it really practical from within the professional context of the people who are involved in the program. So I think those two things, I think having the support, having the 0 week was key, having the support available at the point of need, and then having that case study within that professional context worked really, really well as well. And having it as a PDF so that people could just download it, print it, and it's available then to review and refresh, as many times as you need to as you go through the program. I think they made my life as a facilitator so much easier, and ensured that I was able to follow Graham's golden thread through the maze of the program.
Excellent. Okay. And Kevin, what did Spark reveal about the difference between providing online content and creating an online learning experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the first thing to recognise with what we're doing here with Ignited is that we're dealing with professionals who already, they're professional educators, okay, working within a real professional context. So we need to recognise that, okay? We need to make sure that however we develop the programs, that it recognises and actually enables people to actually share the professional context, share their expertise, shared experience, if you like. And that means that if you have content, you're not trying to do, as Stuart mentioned, we're not trying to do fill an empty vessel here training, where people just turn up, and we just pour in all this concept and theory, and then they do a test and, tick and done. This is about adoption. This is about engaging people. This is about trying to create a dialogue, if you like, around a centre of, a centre of practice, if you like, or community of practice, sorry, or peers. So a lot of the useful stuff that came in the program was actually the conversations between the participants, more so than people actually just getting content. So there's that separation, if you like, or that balance between the content, the case studies, the e-learning, where you have to, and if you like, the PowerPoint decks as well, which are all about concept, and then the resources that you provide, which creates an online experience. And the online experience, which were the virtual sessions where we could have a bit of Q&A, as well as the online chats where people could actually share ideas, as well as the ability of people to actually upload their reflections and their opportunity statements into a form that we could then talk about or review. That all feeds the online experience, and the online experience is what enables you to have genuine learner engagement. Now, I think that's what the separation is between, online content and online experience. You need the content, absolutely. And I mentioned about the case study, that was absolutely key. But the online experience is provided by some of the different modalities that Graham talked about that we had within that MS suite. The Teams chat and the virtual sessions where people could actually share ideas, get into a dialogue. That's what actually enabled some of the real learning, I think, to actually happen.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to put the next question to the whole of the panel, so feel free to all shout out. But what did Sparks reveal about what helps educators move from engaging with professional development to applying ideas in practice? So what helped you engage with producing that evidence at the end? Because that's what was one of the key items of the brief for SparkED, is that we wanted people to have something that they worked on to produce at the end of the session, so they were getting some kind of practical work in developing something at the end of the training, rather than just taking everything internally and taking it away with them. They'd actually had some experience. So what do you think that revealed about educators and what should be within that professional development to move people into that kind of practice space?
I mean, so for me, one of the key things that I've heard, and you have to remember, I was at the beginning of the journey, and so kind of afterwards, I'm hearing the results, so that's great. But I think the facilitation component for me is critical. I mean, that human connection. And that is what allows that connection. So yeah, so the facilitation component. My brain's gone on the actual question. Apologies, Debs, but yes, facilitation.
That's okay. That's great. Thanks. I think that's a really good point, actually, Graham, because I've done some online learning, and without that human interaction, it's just the motivation is completely lacking to continue that learning. Sonia.
And that
Oh, sorry. Are you still going,
No, I was
Graham?
going to say, and that was it. That was the key thing. It's that interaction. It's the push versus the pull. It's the it allows that engagement and enriches the person's personal development because they then are part of it and they almost have skin in the game because they're being listened to as well. So that was the point of it. So yeah. Sorry, Sonia.
Sonia.
Oh, I agree with Graham. I found the discussion after we read the content. Kevin explained what it was all about and explained the content, and I found the collaboration and his explanations as to how it can, for each stage, how it leads to the solution step by step and the logical way. I found that very useful. And I guess Kevin explained everything, gave us the opportunity to ask questions in class, which I'm sure I was the one who was asking too many questions, but I found that very useful because then it clarified in my mind what I'm reading is what can be interpreted in a practical form, can be written down and presented to managers. Just
Perfect. Yeah. Has anyone else got anything to say on that question? Shall we move on?
I guess just one thing I want to say about that, which is about, and Graham and Sonia are kind of talking about it. That word facilitation is so key, right? Because this whole program was set up with the idea that the person, my role was to facilitate, not to present, not to be the subject matter expert, but to actually facilitate the discussion, the dialogue. And I think the bit that, isn't there, it's there, but we don't call it out, is the reflection. What I loved about this program is the fact it forced people to actually sit back and reflect, about, the context, the situation they're in. Stuart mentioned that, we're always so used to being in problem solving mode and to immediately get, find a solution. There was this wonderful opportunity in this program as a facilitator. My job was to create the space, if you like, the breathing space where people could literally sit back, for a week or two and think about, just explore the space they're in, explore the frustration, explore the friction point in their organization, and explore the opportunities. And that is really rare in our daily professional life, is to be given that freedom, if I can use that word, to basically just, sit back, think about, reflect, review the case study, look at the e-learning again, and just kind of circle back and give your brain the opportunity to do some of that, slow thinking, if you like, around solutions. And as a facilitator, that's really what I was trying to do in those first sessions, was basically to pull people back from solution mode and actually give them the freedom. Sounds a little bit pretentious, but at least acknowledge, articulate that this program is different. This is about engagement. This is about adoption. This is about something practical and useful. And for it to succeed in that, you need to give yourself the opportunity to sit back and reflect rather than just, go straight forward into solution. And the way the platform was set up, the way we did the asynchronous delivery with the different modalities between e-learning and the virtual sessions and the chat, and even the timeline of the program over 4 to 5 weeks, all of that enabled that reflection and that kind of deeper thinking to occur. And I think without any one of those components, the program wouldn't be, as successful as I think it is.
Graham.
Just a real quick one. So we can architect something epic. We can build something really good. I always judge, if you build it, they won't come, is what I say. But the key thing that also Kevin probably isn't saying that is that facilitator, and a true facilitator who understands what facilitation is also the make and break really of the success of this sort of stuff. So that kind of the success is also, comes down to someone like a Kevin who truly is a facilitator. So yeah, so just wanted to acknowledge yourself, Kevin, because yeah, it is a skill that people don't really recognize sometimes.
No, I appreciate that, Graham, but I think it's about, I mean, I won't disagree with you, but it's actually three pillars. It's actually four if I think about it, right? It's the platform, so all the systems have to work and everything that goes around that, the support and all the rest of it. It's the content has to be highly relevant and professionally relevant to the professional context of everyone who's doing the program. Yes, you need a facilitator who understands what facilitation means. And then critically, you need motivated and engaged learners and participants. Sonia and Stuart, I mean, it's so great to see two of your faces again, on this session, because that's what makes the whole thing fly. If any one of those components isn't firing on all cylinders, you won't have a success. And it all feeds into itself. It's a kind of like a double loop learning or something like that. Every part of the platform, when it's working together, or part of that structure when it's working together, you just end up accelerating and ending up with a fantastic learner experience, with just a fantastic experience for everyone involved in reality.
Excellent. And we also have another of our Sparks testers who's with us today, who's just posted in the chat, Jane, who said that actively being creative is something that was really important. And I actually wanted to reflect on that because I think that's a great comment. And I wanted to ask again, Sonia and Stuart, about what they thought about the content, because when we were putting the content together, one of the things that we drew from Elevated is quite often we focus on industry currency for our educators, and also some level of digital training and understanding. But we discovered that people are actually asking for more professional development than that, in terms of we're looking at educational practice, we're looking at vocational skills to move forward within the organization. And what we were aiming to do here is to give you content that was a little bit more creative, in terms of we're giving you tools and skills rather than something which, that you're factual, like your industry currency. So we wanted it to be something where there are no right answers, that required you to think creatively and come up with new ideas around how to do things. So I was just keen to understand a little bit more about what Sonia and Stuart made of the content that we gave you. It was a little bit left of centre, I think.
Well, I found the case studies useful, and once you read the case studies and then you were asked to do the task, the tasks, and it broke it down into short, manageable dot points, which were easy to understand, and also there was examples on how you can start your thinking to answer those dot points. I found them very useful. Instead of lots of information, I think the short, sharp dot points and the case studies helped me link them together, so I could write about the problems and issues and develop the idea into a solution. I don't know how Stuart felt about that one. Yes.
Yep, I found that the content to be not too overwhelming, but just enough. I know that it only focused on one branch of solution finding, and there's several others, but then again, that engages you to think, oh, hang on, there's other ways I can do this now, and I'll go out and research it myself. So that's got my enthusiasm up to learn a little bit more. So, I put my hand up for SparkED because I'm always keen to learn something. And I wasn't disappointed from it. I actually didn't even know what I was going to be presenting. It's just like, put your hand up, chuck your hand up for PD. I want to do it. And it's actually helped me to collaborate more with my peers in group decision making. And the interaction, it's not just peer-to-peer collaboration, it's collaboration with pairing skills. You know, pairing skills prior to this was just a website. Jump on the website, they send you a few emails. You know, who would have thought that an email from a guy I know, bot, would have got into our quarantine files at our, you know, at our what is it, IT department. So we did have a few hiccups there. But look, I'm keen to learn more about this, and I'm just very happy that I could, you know, collaborate with my peers, the Job Skills Council, and yeah, it's definitely opened my eyes up more to we can change things and not just put up with how things are running. Try and get some more student engagement.
Excellent. Okay, another quick question for all of the panel. Based on SparkED, what should the sector keep, change, or stop doing when designing professional development for educators? Big question.
I think one of the things which is really interesting around the Spark program was the fact that the ultimate piece of work or result, the ultimate product was what a mini innovation brief. So this was an artifact, you know, a document, a couple of pages, where after going through the program, individuals, participants could actually kind of record, you know, where they saw the friction point, where they saw an opportunity for an improvement, and then talk through the solution that they'd developed within the program. And I think one of the things that we need to think about as a sector for this type of professional education is, look, we don't want to be ticking the box anymore about people passing an assessment. We're all about adoption. We're all about professional impact. When we talk about impact, we need to start thinking about, when we do these programs, what's the product that comes out of the program, and to what extent is it going to be useful in a really practical way to actually help the individual who's been in the program to then, you know, deliver that impact to the organisation. And I think the innovation brief was a great artifact, a great product, because it actually then equips individuals with not just, you know, a tool for that idea. It's actually a tool that they can be used as a template for, you know, future innovation ideas, if you like, or future changes that they might want to bring in and engage other stakeholders with. So I think that's one of the things that as a sector we need to think about, which is, if we're going to put people through learning, put through, it makes it sound like it's a punishment, but if we're going to invite people to actually develop a new concept and try new things and try something different and learn something new, through that process, we have to ask ourselves realistically, what is the product that they're going to, you know, what's the takeaway, what's the WIFM for every participant that's actually going to give them something where they can then actually use it to actually, you know, adopt it to actually deliver that impact to their organisation and drive some change within their organisation. I'd be really interested to hear from, you know, Sonia and Stuart, you know, your sense of the value of that mini innovative brief, that final product, to what extent you think it might assist you with actually delivering impact.
You going to say something, Stuart? You look like you were going to say something. So, no?
Yeah, definitely. To me, it's helped me to define the information, as you say, to present to management. Yeah, what's the benefits of doing this? But it's not just as we normally do. We'd find the one solution and leave it at that. Let's collaborate as peers, because, you know, like as a group, we've all got different points of view. We've got different ways of understanding, different ways of presenting. There's no right or wrong way. There's just differences between us all, and to collaborate and diverge and then converge on a final solution. Yeah, things could only get better. It's got to be an improvement. And you know, I'm very big on improving of systems, and this is just a tool I can now use to quantify previously what I would have intuitively just put on the board. So it's it will help my argument if I'd like to see some innovation instead of just leave it go.
Yeah, excellent. Sonia, did
I was just going to say, just emphasize on what Stuart was saying. I actually did, after the end product, I did write it up as a report form as to what the problem is, and I kind of made a 3-page report out of it, properly, instead of just using the captures as we did in class. And I developed it a little bit. And even though I'm not teaching at the moment, I've moved away from the electrical training, but I have developed the report, and I feel it's useful to present these things in order to address some of the current issues that we have, at least with our cohort in Holmes Glen when I was teaching there. So I found it very practical and useful, and I feel it's very feasible to do it, because Kevin did mention the specific idea that I was working on. He mentioned there are things out there that can solve this particular, address this particular issue. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. That's great. Thanks. So a final round of questions, just one to throw to everybody, which is a quick one. If SparkED was a small learning laboratory, what was the most important result of that experiment?
I think for me, sorry, I'll be really quick with this one. For me, it's about getting away from it, and Stuart kind of mentioned this idea of sheep dip. I used to call it sheep dip learning, right? You have your real world, and then you have this abstract world called training, and you go into it and you do a bit of training and you come out with a certificate, but then you get back to the real world again. And, never the twain shall meet, and any kind of semblance of anything in the training reflecting the real world is, by luck more than by design sometimes, it seems. I think what this program did, the takeaway from this program, was the way we were actually able to face into the real professional context of every individual on the program, and then create a dialogue, like I said, a community of practice where people could actually share ideas across each other from different parts of Australia, from different professional contexts. That was a real benefit of the program. And that, I think, as a laboratory, it's telling us that, we're not there to, deliver theory to professional educators across the vet sector. What we're trying to do is to create an opportunity where professional educators from the vet sector can meet together in a safe environment and in a really productive way share ideas between themselves. And I think that was a great takeaway. Creating that dialogue, that peer-to-peer discussion, I thought was really, really valuable as a takeaway from the experiment.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of stick the learning architect hat on. So for me, it kind of echoes as well what Kevin says, but it's about the experience. So it's not about here's a dump of content that you need to next. And, it's about the experience. So focused, appreciating people are time poor, and working that around by providing that experience rather than here's a content dump.
Excellent. Sonia and Stuart, do you have anything? No? Okay. I've actually got a comment here that I'll put to you and to Graham and Kevin. Give me a minute because it's fairly long. Ross has said, I'm currently completing the Cert 4 in Training and Assessment, where we have been looking at behaviorism, cognitive constructivism, and social constructivism as broad theories. From what I'm hearing about SparkED, it seems the strongest element was social constructivism, that through facilitated peer dialogue and collaboration with cognitive constructivism. Also present as participants connected new ideas to their existing industry and teaching practice. Behaviorism seems present more likely through structured tasks and the mini innovation brief. Does that seem like a fair observation of the learning design, Graham?
It's a very, even though it's a very long, it's very succinct and very clear. Yeah, Absolutely nailed it. Roz, you said it probably far more succinctly as I did, but yes, and Deb, you read it beautifully. But yeah, that's a very fair observation. So
Excellent. Kevin, do you have any?
We should get Roz on as a guest speaker. What are we doing
We should. Do you have anything to say on that, Kevin?
No, I mean, look, I can't take any credit for the architecture of the program and the way it was put together. All I can say is, I guess, like yourselves as professional educators, right? We've all been there where we've been given a program to deliver, and the heart sinks as we kind of churn our way through the PowerPoint deck or whatever it might be. And we've all had the promise of, no, this program is different, and this group we're working with are really great. They're going to give you all the support you need, and so on and so forth. And the truth of the matter is, it happens a lot less frequently than in my career than I would have liked.
I'm hoping honestly, you're going in a good place, Kevin.
Yeah. Somehow these guys, somehow they are. No, it's none of this happens. I guess the takeaway, because we're talking about this being an experiment, what's our takeaway here? Here's the takeaway. None of this happens by chance. Full stop. None of this happens by chance. The participants, Sonia and Stuart and all the rest of the people who were in the cohort were highly engaged, highly motivated, and had a genuine desire to actually participate in the program. And that really drove that whole experience. Okay. We had some real good people involved in the program on the design side, on the support side, and on the delivery side. And you have to create your programs in that way. If you want to have something you haven't got, you have to do something you haven't done. So when you look at our own programs, when we look at programs which perhaps aren't hitting the marks as much as we'd like them to be doing, or being as successful as we'd like them to be, you have to be realistic and go, well, hang on a minute, let's take a step back, let's reflect, let's see which component isn't working, and let's find out why. Because this was a great program, it's working really well. And again, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens through great design, good delivery, terrific support, and motivated learners.
Excellent. Thank you. And also, great question from Rob McCrone here, which is, can I ask, is the Cert 4 itself a barrier to attracting talent? And that's the TAE. And I thought it might be nice. Is Mel still around? Online. I thought
yes,
I think this would be a great one for you to answer now.
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. Here I was trying to lurk in the background. I think educative processes are barriers to any industry, and that's probably by design as much as anything else. So it's important that we have those barriers in place to sort of test people's resolve to be able to enter into that industry. I think my personal belief, and I'm an old TAE teacher, is that I think the way we go about delivery may be the barrier itself rather than the qualification. And I think we need to remember that Cert 4 is a license to operate, it doesn't make us an awesome trainer and assessor. So it's like a gateway. It sort of enters us into the process rather than being that download. I often think TAFE had a advert years ago, and it's the picture that comes to mind, with a CD-ROM drive in their head, and that's essentially what we're trying to do, right? We just drop it in and off you go. So, and I think perhaps maybe if we relook at the way we do TAE, we might be able to get a better outcome of that, Rob. But I think it's something we need to look at, and I know you are getting that message a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Melissa. I appreciate that. And also, Steve says, for those who are late to the party, how do we get involved with this? Is there something tangible, somewhere we can play with and use? Steve, I will take your details and stay tuned, because there are new things coming that we'll be able to talk about in a couple of weeks, and we will we will be able to talk to you about that soon. But also, we do have all of our resources and next step. So this QR code will take you through to the website. There will be a report on sparked and the outcomes of that experiment. Or there's also there more information on Elevated and Partnered, which are other action projects, along with implementation guides and toolkits. We are still creating work that will be going up there, and that will be available for the next 12 months. And we'll be going out talking to people a little bit more about this project as well. There's only one more session, so you can't really register for the next session, but the next session is going to be with our CEO, and that's closeout. And also do stay in touch. So if you've got any questions that you haven't asked during this session or any of the others, or you just want to reach out and ask to be involved in some of the projects that we're working on, please just email us at info@poweringskills.com.au. I would love to just thank you all for coming today and for taking the time to listen to our Sparked experiment, and for all of those, particularly Rosa, I know has probably been to every one of the sessions that we've done. Thank you for giving of your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you at the next session. Thanks ever so much. Take care.
Yeah, thanks everyone.